This is Gemara Avodah Zarah, Daf Lamid Dalid, and we're holding on Lamid Gimel Amid Beis. We're about 5 lines from the wide lines. We'd like all the learning to once again be an incredible Zchos Refuah Shalema for Gavriel Simcha ben Miriam Ahuva B'siyata Dishmaya. The incredible Koyach HaTorah should continue bringing refuahs, ultimately culminating in a refuah shalema b'siyata dishmaya. So we're holding 6 lines from the bottom, a story regarding potential yayin nesach. That's 6 lines from the wide lines. Devei parzek rufila anas. Says the Gemara that the pace people of the parzek, rufila, the viceroy, anas hani kubi b'pabadisa, grabbed and seized certain jugs from Jewish owners in Pampadisa. Rami b'hu chamra, and they put their own yayin nesach inside of them. And when they were finished, adrinu nihalayu, they emptied them out and they returned the jugs back to the Yiddish owners. So what's the shayla of Hadasa Shailu? The Rav Yehuda, they came to ask Rav Yehuda, Omar, and he said, Davar shein machnisa likiyamu. This is something that one does not usually use for storage, and therefore we do not have to be worried for yayin nesach was there for a considerable amount of time. So what do? He responded, just rinse them out, and everything is mutter. Because we're not worried that there was actually a belia from the wine, therefore a simple cursory rinsing will suffice. Amar Rav Avira on the last narrow line, Hani Chatzbi, says Rav Avira, these red pitchers, Shechima Daramai of the Armenians, Kivan Bali Tuva, since they are not very Baileya, on the first wide line, Mutarim, on a similar vein, one can simply rinse them off, and they are mutter. Continues the Gemara, Rav Papi teaches Rav Papi, Hani Pasvaisa Devei Merci, the earthenware utensils of Devei Merci, Kivan Bali Tuva Nacham, all the same thing, Pshashlim Mayim, Umutarim, and they will be mutter. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol. More about an earthenware utensil. Kasi Ravasi, earthenware cups. Ravasi was asar, Ravashi was shari. Ishasvu akapam rishain. Says the Gemara, it's not so posh. If the first time earthenware was used, and again we know that earthenware soaks in right away, then kuliyam loy pligi, that avad the cup will be aser. What's the machlok? As in the fourth wide line, lam gimlam base. Kipligi bipam sheni, when the guy used it the second time. Ikadiyami now the lash upon rishon v'sheni kam lo pligi da'aser. Kipligi bipam gimel, as by that point we could say potentially that the belia already finished. V'holchsa pam rishon v'sheni aser gimel mutter. Says the Gemara, Omar Rav Zvid, Hi mani de kunya, these glazed vessels, chivara v'ukama shari, white ones and black ones are mutter, whereas yeruka, the green ones, aser. Why? Mishum de mitzraf, because they're mixed with earth. V'isbehu kartufni kuli asiri. But if there are kartufni, what are kartufni? So Rashi here explains, kartufni are bekai mutstakim, there are cracks in it. And avada, if there are cracks, then we know that all the wine is going to go in it, then it'll be aser. Darish Meramimar, and he argues, Konye, when it comes to glazed vessels, any color, shari, it's going to be mutter. And of course, these are many of the types of utensils that we have that are glazed. Maishna mechametz v'pesach d'ba minei, Merimar, as Merimar asks, Hanimani de Konya, Maulish tamushi bu v'pescha, Yeruka loiti b'aylecha, the green ones, the mitzar v'yubali, v'asir, and they're for sure aser. Do we say if it has cracks? The she smooth ones might. So Frag to Gemara, you're telling me it's a davar posh. If it's glazed, everything's fine. But we see that even glazed was a shayla for chametz and Pesach. So Amr Lo, he responds as we turn over to Lamed Daled Amid Aleph. I see that what? Midaisi. That even the earthenware vessels, there's condensation. The vessel sweats. And therefore what? Kivan de midaisi. Since there's this element of sweatage, vadai bali, and therefore the Assyrian's going to be aser. My taima ha Torah hiida al kli cheres she'eno yoitzi midei dofnim la'olam zakte heilige Torah. That kli cheres will not go out forever. Once it's absorbed, you cannot get it out, and therefore the fact that it's sweating shows us there must be a baliyah. And that's the reason why it'll be usher forever. Ask the Gemara 1 second. Maishnami ayinesach de darish lo meremar. Kulam de koni yishari. V'chidei mechametz daraisa maybe ayinesach de rabbanon. By the classical kasha, v'kol takin rabbanon kin daraisa talking. So what's the chilik? Says the Gemara, I'll tell you. Zet ashmishe bechamin. Zet ashmishi b'tzayim, a very fundamental chilek. Zakti Gemara, chametz is used with hot, and therefore there's more of a baliyah, whereas yayin nesach is cold. Continues the Gemara, Rav Akiva ikla liginezek. He visited Ginezek and Baimine. They asked, "Misana l'shas in misanin l'shais." The first shayla is, do we fast l'shais? Is there such a thing as a partial fast day? Laviyad, they didn't have an answer. The next kasha, kankanin shalakum asurin. I mutar and Lavia didn't have an answer. Bema shimesh Moshe kol shivas me'am lum, with what did Moshe Rabbeinu serve all 7 days? Lavia asel shalbe mijasha, the 3 shaylos Amri, and they responded. Hil chasen ambra misan l'shais. There is a concept of fasting l'shais. Number 2, b'mishlem, and if l'maisa you're mashlim the fast, and what? Bismal tfilas tainis, you're going to say neinu. Did number 1. Did number 2, kankanim shalakum. Lachayud is chodesh matirin a chidish, that after 12 months the bliyah disappears. Number 3, b'mashimish Moshe shivzim emluim b'cholok lavan, with a white cloak. Rav Kana masni b'cholok lavan she'in by imra, not a stam cholok lavan, but rather a cholok lamud that does not have a hem on it. Rashi explains what's the reason. So no one will be chayshish Moshe Rabbeinu that maybe he snuck some of the gold from the Binyan HaMishkan into his pocket. On the last line continues the Gemara, Chatzan v'azagim shalakum. Going back to the case of din of the Mishnah, that grape products, wine products of a guy are aser nemachlik Ramir the Chachamim. Ramir says all, Chacham says only the moist ones. So Tana Rabbanan says the Gemara, Hachar Tana v'azagim shalakum. Lache in the moist ones, asur yeveshim or tavi. Heini ulacha veinu yeveshim arvidam or shmuel lach and kol yud beis chaydesh. Yeveshim is lach or yud beis chaydesh. So for the first 12 months, they have a status of being moist. After the grapes have been pressed for 12 months, after that they dry out. Itmar Omer Rav Chanan Rav Yechon. Kshein asurin afilu b'ana. Kshein mutarin afilu be'achilo. When it's mutar b'ana. When it's aser, when it's one more time. When it's aser nano. When it's mutar even achila, meaning both extremities. Amar Rav Zvit Hai Durdaya Techamra Daramoi. Sediment of the wine of the Armenians, Vasa Teresa Yarchi Shata, is going to be shari. Another din, Amar of Chaviva on the last line, Braid Rava. Hani Golfi Basa Teresa Yarchi Shata shari. These Golfi, the jugs that contain the ayin nesach, will be aser, will be mutter after 12 months. Amar of Chaviva, a third din. Hani Avta, as we turn over to Lamedal and Amid Beis. Titaya, the leather canteens of travelers. Says the Gemara, Basar Trisi Archishata Nachamol, the same type of din. After 12 months, Allah is going to be shari, they will be mutter. Amar Rav Acha Rav Ika. Hani Partsuni Daramai. These grape items of the Armenians, Basar Trisi Archishata will be shari. Amar Rav Acha Rava. Hani Gulfi Shechimi. Red and black jugs of the Goyim. Pasal Chesi Achishat and Achamol will be Shari, numerous related dinim. And now we continue on the 5th line with a quote from the Mishnah. The Mishnah discussed a case of a Murios. So the Gemara explains what exactly is this Murios. Rameir said it's Asar Afilu Ba'ana, whereas the Chum said it's only Asar B'Shtiya. It's a drink that they put, this is a liquid entity, that they put their Yain Nesach into it. So says the Gemara, Tanur Rabbanan Murios, Uman Mutter. The Murios of an Uman is going to be Mutter. Why? Because they don't regularly add wine to their Murios mixtures. Rav Yehuda ben Gamliel Loimer, Bishur Rav Chanina ben Gamliel. Av Chiluk Uman is going to be Mutter. Not just the Murios, but the Chiluk as well. Because again, this is a fish dish, but the professionals didn't put in non-kosher fish. Tani Avimi Breder of Avua. Murios Uman Mutter. The Murios of an Uman is going to be Mutter. Utani Lavu Amrla Pamrisha Visheni is going to be Mutter. Only the first and second time they're makbid to remove these fish pieces. But Shlishi is going to be Aser. My Taima explains the Gemara. Pamrisha Visheni did not Shumnayu. When the first and second Murios that they create, there's a lot of fat, and therefore, they don't put wine in it. And therefore, we're going to know that there's going to be wine mixed in, and therefore, it will be Aser. The Gemara continues with another story of Murios. Hu Arava Arba de Muraisa. There was a boat of Murios that what Asil and Emala came to the port to Akoy. Oisif Rav Ava de min Akoy netura bahado. Rav Akoy Rav Abba, excuse me, de min Akoy for guards around it to make sure that those who were there, the Goyim, would not mix their wine into the Murios. Amle Rava Ade Inna Manat. Very good that right now you're guarding it. But who watched it until now? Amrle Ade Inna Nechashla. Until now, we have what to work with. Why? Because we should have been concerned. Excuse me. Ada inna my nechashal. What are we concerned about? If you two are they mixed in wine, don't worry. Kiss the demarias baluma is sold for a luma, or it's kiss the chamra barbara lumi. So the price itself will dictate. Says the Gemara, maybe when they went to a place called Sur, Shavru Chamra, wine is inexpensive. Over there, there are whirlpools and other stuff, and therefore they're not worried. Therefore, there's no worried about those going out to shore over there. Ukvinas Beisu Nike, says the Gemara, cheese a Beisu Nike of Avodah Zarah is mutar b'hana, Dr. Meir Nachamol. Chum says no, it's Aser b'hana, it's mutar b'achil. Amr Shimon Lakish, Mibnei Ma, Aser Ugivinas Nike Mibnei Sharoi v'Golim Shalois here, the majority of the calves and Shchatim Avodah Zarah. My Arya Roi v'Golim Afilu Miyat Nami, says the Gemara, Dr. Meir Chayish Lamiuta, Yamrit Roi v'Kamiyat. Eliam Miyat Kivan Dika Roi v'Golim de'ein Nishchatim Avodah Zarah. And suffix number 1, suffix number 2, we cannot be sharp aim was in the other chavim. Havale muta demuta lo chayish. So frag the Gemara, but chayr that can't be the mitzias, or else we'd be able to be motor. Answers the Gemara. Chayshamir. Amalei Rav Shimon Yakil Rav Shimon Lakish. Ki nishchat avodas chavim. Mayave. Who cares? Va'atu the shari, but you said it's motor ditmar. Sheikhes aveim alizrik damul avodas chavim. Or lakta chalav avodas chavim. What's the halacha? So Rav Yechon Amar Asura Kisavar why machashin avodas chavim the whole animal. Ve'avina and chos b'ipnim. Ve'ishlakish amutaros. Even though part of it was brought into Avodah Zarah. Amalei termanich shaitich ba'imar bigmar zvicha. Who Oivda says the Gemara. You know why? Because we have to be concerned that maybe he left it over, and he responded that your fortune should be blessed to you. Ba'imar bigmar zvicha u'da'avda. The Mishnah is talking about where a case where the completion of the service was done by the Goyim. We'll pick it up from the 2 dots. B'siyata dishmai.